Good evening, friends. How you doing? Okay, part two of our bamboo arrow quest. Okay, so last night we went through a bunch of other stuff in the other video, and tonight we got them all sorted. We got them all weighed out for a rough weight. What we're going to do now is we're going to determine we have to cut these, because we're not going to shoot them 33 inches. These are 33-inch shafts as they come from China, and we're not going to do that. So we have to determine which they're tapered. This is another handy dandy little tool you're going to have to use. You're going to have to buy or have one. I got this at one of the box stores, and it's in metric and in thousandths, and I love the metric feature. So what I got here on my, I've got 7.3 millimeters, 7.2 on the top, and I've got 7.9 on the bottom. So that's so we're going to work on the knock ends tonight, and this knock end is good. What I like to do is I like to use, if I'm going to cut these, I cut mine at 29 inches. It gives me, these are about 33s. It gives me 4 inches to play with. I like to try and get one of the nodules, which is the sections between the pieces of bamboo here. It's called a nodule. I like to get a nodule right on my knock end if I can. It's a little woodier, and it seems to be hardier. And then I grind my tapers on a woodchuck tool that I made years ago, a sanding disc with a groove thing in it, and it worked pretty good for me. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. To prep these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill these, and I'm going to plug them. All the knock ends, I drill them and I plug them with bamboo plugs, and they look like this. You can go to a supermarket or a home store and get skewers, and they're bamboo and they're fairly round, and these work great as a plug. Bamboo's hollow, and I just am a little leery about grinding the knock taper and putting a knock on a hollow. So what I do is I put an 1.5 inch piece of bamboo and I glue it in there with some nice tight bond, and then that gives me a sense of security that I've got a solid end on there for a knock. I haven't had a problem and I haven't broken it. So what I've got here is somewhere around 2.7, and on this drill bit that I use all the time I have 2.9. So that's going to give me a little bit of clearance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill this end here, and then we'll be able to glue that in. Knock the sawdust out of that. And I'm going to cut an 1.5 inch piece of that. Go liberal with this. Never enough wood glue. Okay. Stick that in, give it a little twirl. And I like to leave about just a little nub sticking up, maybe 1/8 of an inch, and so they're all going to be like this. Okay, so now that we have our knock end on there, I'll let these dry overnight. Tomorrow I'll be ready to grind them. Okay, the next thing, people who watched part one are probably wondering, when I said about making them weigh all the same. So that's our next order of business. So once we get all of them weighed out, we have to take the one that weighs the most. And we have to take the one that weighs the least, and we have to bring them in succession up to the one that weighs the most. So there, that gives us 29-inch shafts, which gives me 28 to the back of the point, and somewhere around a little bit more, but not much. And then I'll have a half a dozen shafts that all weigh the same as its base starting point. No feathers, no knock, and no point. So here's my medium for adding the weight to the point end. We never weight the back end. I don't consider the bamboo, 1.5-inch bamboo plug that I put in the end of all these weight. It adds a little bit, but they all get it. So we still have a level playing field, except for 10 grains, whatever an 1.5 inch piece of this little bamboo weighs. So the next thing, 10-penny steel nail, which mics up to be 3.5 millimeter. Good choice. It's heavy, so you don't need as long a piece. Okay, there's one option. Welding rod, brass covered steel, 2.9 millimeters. Not as heavy, but so it's going to be a little bit longer. And a lot of people like this stuff, brass drill rod, 2.0 millimeters, which means it's going to be lighter and longer. So it's up to you. It's not up to you. It's up to, depends on how much weight you have to. If I have to make up, let's see, what did we just screw? This is 430, and my biggest one is 455. So that's 25. That's 25 grains I got to make up. Well, 25 grains isn't much, so I will probably take a 1/2 inch piece of this steel nail, and then I'll weigh it, and then I'll go from there, and then I can keep nipping it till I get 25 grains. We drill our front, we glue in the nail, push it in a little bit farther, because what I like to do in the front ends of all my arrows as well for my points is another piece of bamboo, which I'll go up to a bigger size because I got a fatter shaft here. So these are the 2.5s, I don't want those. This is a 3.5, which is a little beefier piece, and I'll stick a 1-inch plug, 1.5-inch plug in that. Doesn't matter, inch, 1.5 inch, whatever one you use, do all of them the same. So the weight's going to go in first, then you're going to put your 1.5 inch plug. Reason that is, you want your forward of center. So you want your weight in the front. So that'll take care of that. And then you use whatever medium you have to successively to come up to that 455. And then I got a 447. So I'm only going to need 8 on that one, 8 grains. I've got a 454, I'm not going to do anything with that. And then I've got a 450, so I'll need a 5 grain piece. Then I can, 5 grains, I'll do that out of brass, or I'll make my bamboo an extra 1/2 inch to make up the 5 grains. 5 grains is not much. I made a beautiful set last week. I had every shaft within 2 grains. I was happy as a clam. Got them all fletched up, put all my points on, weighed my points, weighed my knocks, got them all fletched up, and I had up to a 10 grain variation. And I said, what's going on here? Feathers. Feathers weigh what feathers weigh. I cut my own, and I have to grind down the quill parts, and I do it by hand with a clamp. and a sanding block, 60 grit, 80 grit. Choose that stuff right off real quick, and it gives you an ideal mating surface for glue. Another tip, Duco cement. You buy this online, you buy 5 tubes at a time for like 10 bucks. It doesn't ever go bad, and it's great. It sticks real good to these. The only thing I've learned is whatever they use for cement, whatever they use for varnish in China, it's not compatible. So I take my same sanding block and I'll just give this a quick roughen them up, knock off the varnish a little bit. Once I glue my feathers on, a lot of times I'll stick my thumb in the shellac can and go up between the feathers with a little bit of shellac. You never know the difference, or you can do nothing. The glue's already starting to set up on that. This tight bond is good stuff. Okay, so where were we? We got them all weighted. Then we cut our knock taper, and we cut our point taper. Throw some feathers on, and show you want to lose arrows. They're the same. I make us all the same. So you end up with a shaft. I do a little bit of decorative silk winding. I use a lot of silk when I tie flies. Fly fishing and traditional bow hunting are a couple of my passions. So I had a lot of silk left over, and one day I was just trying to wrap, and it's not the best wrap job in the world, but it's twofold. It gives us a little visual if we stick one in the dirt under the ferns, and I like to think that it'll help the end of the shaft take a little more abuse. It seems to work real well. And this is one of Lou's bow. She shoots 24 inches, about 39 pounds. And this is what hers end up with after I do a little decoration. She gets a different pattern than I do, so we can pull them out of the target. We know whose arrows are who at a glance. Any questions? You can email me, and I can walk you through some of this stuff or clarify some things if you don't understand. There's not much more I can do to this one tonight. I'll do a fletching video, and it's kind of boring, but I'll show you how I do it, same way as everybody else, I would assume. I use a multi-fletch jig. I've had one for 30 years. I just bought another one. I just bought a helical, and against my better judgment, just so I'd have one if I want to try out some helicals. And I have a set of my straight fletch with probably 2 degrees, and then a full helical, and I can't see any difference. Accuracy wise, I can't see any difference. They're weighted. Both sets of 6 are weighted. I don't know exactly, but we're very, very close, so there's no differential there. What I haven't talked about is spine. Okay, what I found out, I could be wrong, and I'm open to comments. This is a cylindrical shaft, tapered, but it's hollow. It's got a pith in it, but for all practical purposes, it's hollow. When we used to buy arrows, I was an XX75 guy. I never really took to the game getters. I like the autumn orange. We buy 2018s, 2020s, whatever, 2117s. We never spined them. We just took it for granted that this is what the chart said. You shot a few, they shot good. Okay, we're good to go. It's the same thing with this. I have a spine tester, and I will spine these. After I get done sorting them and weighing them, I will, and I get them all pretty much to where I want them. I'll throw them on the spine tester just to see. They're nowhere near. I shoot between 60 and 75 pounds. And I shoot the same arrows. I don't notice any difference. They're a little faster, higher the pounds, they get a little zippier, but performance-wise, they work fine. They really do. So the only thing I check for my spine is that they're all the same. I mean, whether they spine out for 90 pounds, 80 pounds, 70 pounds, they never spine out for me. They're marked 60, 65. They never spine out at 65. They always spine higher, which I don't care. And as long as they're fairly close. If I get one that's, say, 90 pound spine, I don't use that. I use the 0.3, 0.4, 0.3 and a half. If I get one that's a full, all of them are running 0.4 deflection, and then I get one that's 0.5 or 0.6 deflection, I probably won't use that one with that set because there's something going on there that it's not as strong, even if it's weighed the same. There's just something about the flexibility of it. That's just me. But I'm not shooting tournament and I'm not shooting the Olympics. So it's more something that I just don't understand what's going to happen, but I'd rather not have one explode, and I never have had one explode. And I've never had a wood arrow explode either, and I've turned my own wood shafts for the last 20 years. So anyway, we got this down pat. We sorted them, we weighed them, we're plugging the ends. We're going to use whatever medium we want, steel, brass. I've got some brass rod. I've got some brass welding rod. I've got some steel arc welding rods. The nails are soft, and these cut real well with a pair of side cutters. And you measure a ½ inch, and you measure an inch, and then you weigh them. And then you know, okay, this weighs this weighs this. If you need half of that, you cut it in half and you get a 1/4 inch chunk for whatever. And the bamboo, you can only go so much, 5, 6, 7, 8 grains with that. So we're all set with that. So our next project will be fletching them. Points. I find that these bamboos are very, very susceptible to not enough weight in the front. I did a bunch last week. I'm always looking for the better mousetrap. So I bought some Chinese points, parallel. They're not tapered, they're parallels. They fit right over the shaft. And I really like them a lot. They're silver. They look like a kid's arrow point, but they're not. But they look like it. I'd rather have a black. Anyway, to make a long story short, I got a bag of them. Price was right. They came in from China. I was happy as a clam. All I have to make sure is that the end of my shaft is cut off square. Not a big deal. But they were 90 grains. So I said, well, they're all 90 grains. So I did 6 with 90 grains. Now all the shafts weighed the same. They were all done. It's just that the points I put on, I normally shoot 150s. I don't think I know. Well, yes I do. This is 160. This is 160 grain field point. I get them online by the bag full. You can get 100 of them for 30 bucks or something like that. They're great. But it's 160 grains. The broadheads I shoot, which maybe we can do that tonight. I'll show you some of the broadheads I shoot. And they range from different weights. This is a single bevel, and I really like these. And I think these are 150s. And I really like these a lot. They sharpen up really. These are brutally sharp, and they fly really good. It's one of my up and coming favorites. I really like these a lot. And then I'll show you 2 other ones that are my favorites. Don't go away. Right back. These are for fall's coming up pretty soon. So those are the 150s. That, my friends, is an old stainless steel Jerry Hill. See that? A Howard Hill style, but it's a Jerry Hill. It's 190 grains. 190, holy smokes. But I'll tell you what, they fly like a dart, like a field point. Zoom. I've killed a lot of game with these. You can't get them anymore. I've got maybe a half dozen left, maybe 5. I've killed boars with these. I killed a big ram with one of those. My son killed a big boar with one of these. They zip right through things like nothing. They're incredible. And what I have, and then I have my old standby. Let me check it on here. I have my old standby, the Fred Bear, and I've got a coffee can, plastic coffee can full of these. I was hoarding them off eBay for a long time, these are kind of light, but they fly. Again, they fly really, really good. So let's go back to the story. I get sidetracked here. The parallels from China, I made up to half a dozen. Lou and I went to the range last week or the week before, last week. And first couple shots, I shoot instinctive. I used to shoot the Howard Hill method, split vision. Killed my fair share of game, and then all of a sudden I wasn't doing the split vision thing anymore. I was just pulling up and shooting, and I found, and it happened again today, when I stopped thinking and I'm in a hunting situation, I get a good shot on a game animal, the animal presents itself, I like the quartering away, whatever I get, I pull up, I anchor, and I shoot, boom. And 9 times out of 10, I can put that arrow wherever I want it. I shoot close. 40 yards, nah. 30, nah. Not unless I have an exceptional shot and I feel real comfortable. I like 10 yards. I like 15 yards. I like 20, but I like 10 better. So I mean, it's anchor and go. The parallel points, 92 grains. I'm shooting a foot high. Lou says, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "You peeking?" I said, "Probably." "Are you anchoring?" I said, "Yeah, I am." So we did the course. Well, all day long, except when I forced myself to really shoot low, which is hard for me to force myself to shoot because I take the shot. Fred Bear once said he anchors and he shoots, and if he needs to do his yardages more, he has to pull back more because he has a hard time aiming more because he had a set point. I met Fred once, went to the Grayling Museum. I was stationed in Michigan years ago, so we took a ride down there and met Fred. We talked about Africa. We talked about some of the shots he took on some game, and he laughed. And he was just a really, really, really nice guy. And like I said, we had a club up in, I belonged to an archery club in the Upper Peninsula, and met Ted Nugent. Him and Fred were fast friends. Ted was another one. He's a wild man, very outspoken, but a nice guy. You know, these guys are just, their heart's in the right place, you know, regardless of the height. So that, so I'm shooting with these parallels, and I shot all day. So I said, you know, what, it's got to be the weight. Came home, pulled them off, cut a taper on them, threw on some 160s, the big ones, same arrows, shot them the other day. They shot perfect. Boom, back in the groove. We have a couple of targets that are brushy shots between a lot of spruce trees around here, and hemlocks in the forest, and the branches are all crazy. And there's a couple of shots that we do particularly that are between trees, and by the time you're done, it's probably a 25-yard shot. All you can see is a little bit of the target, and I usually get in there and I'll shoot 3 arrows, bing, 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 and that's my test shot. I know if, because I've shot that so many times, I just pull up, anchor, and shoot. And I did it with the 160s on the same arrows that formerly had the parallels on it, and they're right in the groove. So, and we went out this morning again and did the field course. It was beautiful here. It's August in New England, and it's been sweltering. And to shoot, you got to get out early in the morning, because by 10 o'clock, t-shirts are soaked. It's just not fun anymore. It's oppressively humid. And so this morning we got out. We got out a little late, but we had a nice breeze, and Lou hammered them. Lou was banging bullseyes today like I have never seen. She's got a little recurve I made her out of bamboo with a longbow handle on it, which I'll show you folks one of these days. And I made it on a recurve form that I got from a guy that was doing some work on our house, who said he made bows, and he did make bows, but he didn't know anything about it. He was cutting parallel lambs on his table saw, and I guess he saw an article in Popular Mechanics from the 50s or something. And so he was making bows. He brought them over, and they looked okay, but they were more like long bows with a little bit of recurve tips on them, and no fish hooks and stuff. So I said, hey, why don't you let me borrow one of your forms? He said, yeah, okay. So I had my old shop last year, 2 years ago. So he brought the form over, and I said, well, I'm not going to do some weird handle on it, so I put one of my standard longbow handles on it, risers. I make all my longbows with the risers on top of the lamb stack. I don't split my lambs and go around the riser. I just never have done that. Whether I was too lazy in the beginning, I don't know. But I built bows that way for 30 years, and I'll tell you what, they work. Smooth. All my bows follow the string, which years ago folks used to say that was the mark of a good bow, and so I just don't do that. And I do glass. My belly glass goes up to the top of the riser, but traditionally, but not the lambs. So I made this little bow for Lou, 62-inch, and bamboo, and it zings them. It's a zinger, I'll tell you. And today she was hot. She was just making some incredible shots. She's only been shooting for 3 years, and she's amazing, amazing. So we had a good day today. I pulled out some boner shots, and I did some good shots. But Lou stole the day today. So friends, I think I'm gonna shut this down. That's about all I can tell you about how I make my bamboo arrows. Like I said, buy a bunch from Tiger, inspect them, go through them, look at them, feel them. You'll start to get a feel for them. I mean, I find bamboo to be gorgeous. I like bamboo. It's a gorgeous medium. I like it in flooring. I like it in my spoons and my ladles for cooking. I just like bamboo. I like it a lot. And it's a great medium to work with here. Like I said, comments are welcome. There's no haters on this channel. I don't care what you shoot. I was a compound shooter once, back in the day. My friend was a PSE guy, one of Pete Shepley's disciples, and I was a Tom Jennings guy. I met him too once, and it's some food for another adventure here. But the Jennings Aerostar 4-wheeler was a nice bow. I've got two of them hanging up somewhere, a target model and a hunting model. I got a white one and a black one. I rebuilt them both years ago. Bought them on eBay, and don't shoot them much. They're pretty primitive for a compound. There's not much let off. maybe 30%. They're pretty hefty, and but they're cool to look at. I shot a lot of arrows out of them, killed some deer with them, but traditional longbows, recurves. That does it for me. And building them, you know, every one I build is like it's like having a new pet. You know, you really get attached to them, and each one of them seems to have their own personality, and each one of them likes a different arrow and a different combination, and so that's about all I can tell you. Okay, folks, have a nice day. Talk to you next time for part 3.